Hi everybody, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our second TeachMeet about Lightning Languages in September, which is in a little bit more detail. If you came to our first one, it was a little bit more about introducing the scheme. This one is looking at how you would actually build your curriculum and the next steps, and to find out more about the scheme and when you can expect more resources and how it can work for you in your settings. Please, if you've got any questions as we're going along, please do pop them in the chat and I'll answer those whenever we get an appropriate moment. So please do. Fire away with anything that you'd like to know. I've put a link to the Lightning Languages website in the chat for you there, if you've not found it already. But just to make you aware, really, I just wanted you to be able to find everything and know where everything is. So that's kind of what I wanted to have access to if you've not got it already. So what we're going to look at this afternoon, firstly, is finding Lightning Languages, so just the access routes through the Twinkl website, how Lightning Languages as a scheme can help you in your setting to help you build a flexible curriculum to tailor to you, how you plan for progress with Lightning Languages, how you actually build up a timetable to fit whichever timescales you have in your class. And then I've just got some frequently asked questions which have come to us through social media, through Twinkl Cares, where people have sent us, just to kind of address those and things that we've been asked in general about our new schemes, which hopefully will answer some questions and put your mind at rest about timeframes and when you can expect to see more resources and how you actually use it in the classroom. But obviously, if you have any more questions, please do ask, and there'll be plenty of time to answer all of those. So just very quickly, to find Lightning Languages, if you navigate to the Twinkl website, you can just type Lightning Languages into the search bar, and that will straight away take you to the Lightning Languages main landing page. If you type in French scheme of work, which is something that we notice an awful lot of teachers searching for, that will take you direct to the French page, and Spanish scheme of work, if you search for that, will take you direct to the Spanish page. But searching just for Lightning Languages in the Twinkl search bar will take you direct to the Lightning Languages main page. You can also find us here with our address. I've put that address in the chat, obviously typing that in yourselves. You can find us via the Planet curriculum. So you may be familiar with our Planet French and Planet Spanish schemes. I'll be talking a little bit more a bit later in the frequently asked questions about what exactly is happening with those and how Lightning Languages fits in. But the Planet curriculum is encompassing all of our new schemes, as well as the enhanced maths and science Planet resources. So we are part of that, and obviously encompassing all of that. So if you go via curriculum planning, you can find us there. You can also find us by navigating to the Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2 tabs down to languages, and then you'll find French, Lightning and French. You can see Lightning Languages is there, and it can link you to that. And if you go into the individual languages as well, you can find links direct to the page. So hopefully navigating your way there should be straightforward. But really what I want to talk about is why we've put together this scheme and how it can help you in the classroom. So I'll be covering this in a bit more detail later when I look at the frequently asked questions. But fundamentally with Planet, we find that for many teachers, the lessons, which are roughly an hour long, most teachers don't seem to have that time available in the classroom. We tend to see an average of 30 to 45 minutes from our teachers, sort of saying that that's what they've got available on a weekly basis. Some have much less. Some might have lessons only once a half term. And then, we've got different kind of settings and different circumstances. French or Spanish is often the subject that gets pushed. If something else is happening, as soon as it's Christmas production times, languages on Friday afternoon in the graveyard slot, that one will go. And teachers are genuinely worried about making progress. So what was very important to me was having a scheme that would enable you to feel confident that your classes could make progress and could hit all of the curriculum expectations without having to worry yourselves and panic and deliver an entire scheme that, required an hour of your time every single week. So that was my main kind of driving force behind this scheme, really. And part of why the name is Lightning Languages, because the lessons can be delivered, in 30 minutes. And that's really what we wanted, was something that could be accessible and could be used quickly if needed. You know, for many teachers, they're teaching every other half term, mixed age classes and planning a cycle. That's always the issue. If you've got cycle A and cycle B, cycle A is fine. And then when you get to cycle B, it's like, oh no, but I've got, you know, and it's like those overlaps. With our scheme, this allows you the flexibility to pick and choose. So you could have a cycle A, a cycle B, and in fact, you could then have a cycle C, which would allow you that no children would be repeating anything they've done, and you just got a bit more flexibility. So there's huge flexibility with this scheme, and I want to talk to you about how it's going to evolve and what you will expect to see over the coming months. Something that also is very important to me. Personally, I live in Wales. I've taught in Wales and England, but I'm well aware that the national curriculum is a phrase that's used in other countries. We have the English national curriculum, but we also have the curriculum for Wales, the curriculum for excellence in Scotland, and there's also the draft primary language curriculum in the Republic of Ireland. And fundamentally, all schemes, no matter how they're laid out, no matter what the expectations are, fundamentally, we want children to make progress in reading, writing, speaking, or listening. So it made perfect sense to me that from the very beginning, this scheme was open to working with all country curricula, and that it would be something that was very, very simple for teachers in all of those countries to implement. If you're not in England, that you're a kind of second class, you know, you're picking it up and everything says Key Stage 1, you know, and everything says all of the English expectations. I wanted it to be that it was accessible and there were same amount of documents available for everybody wherever you were teaching, so it can be used across the UK and the Republic of Ireland freely and in exactly the same manner and with full flexibility, really. So that's something that was really important to me in the kind of conception of this scheme. Really, something else that's extremely important is the fact that so many teachers are class teachers without linguistic expertise. And we want, as language experts in our team, to empower you with that confidence that you're okay to go and deliver a language lesson, even if you're not 100% yourself. You may not have done languages since school, and suddenly you're faced with having to deliver, you know, 30, 40 minutes of French or Spanish a week. And that's really daunting. And then trying to get children to make progress when you're constantly a step or two ahead. I've spoken to so many teachers over the years, and they've said, you know, they are working 1 to 2 steps ahead of their class at all points. Well, with Lightning Languages, this is a scheme that gives you enormous confidence that you can make that progress with them, and you don't have to feel that sense of panic that you need to spend hours and hours planning and putting it together. It works brilliantly if you're a skilled language practitioner. It works equally as brilliantly if you're not, because of the kind of way it's built and the way we've put it together. We're extremely proud of it in the team, and I really, really stand behind the pedagogy behind it. Really, we've done an enormous amount of research and studies into how we can make it the best it could possibly be to serve the needs of primary language teachers. I wanted to make sure that vocabulary, phonics and grammar are in every unit. They're not just an add-on, they are embedded. But cultural capital is in every unit. Again, it's not something you have to go and look for. Everything you need to deliver a full scheme of work to tick all of the curriculum expectations, whichever country you're teaching in, will be found within Lightning Languages. So that's what I want to really emphasize. And if you've got any questions about that, please get in touch at any point within our Facebook groups. You can message us on Twitter or on Facebook, or a message through Twinkl Cares. And, you know, I'm really happy to jump on a call if needs be and help you work through this with your school. Please always feel free that if you need that support and you would like to start implementing this, even if not immediately, but for next September, and you would like support to do so, please get in touch and, you know, we'll be available to help you with that support. So, as I said, we're really pleased about this scheme because it is very flexible and it has a wonderful range of resources within every unit. They're really vibrant, they're really visually appealing. We absolutely love them, and we are so excited every time we upload something onto the website. We are really excited by it as a team. We have tremendous ownership and, you know, tremendous enjoyment in putting this together, and I really hope that that comes through. So, talk to you about some of the kind of details and some of the things that you need to know. So the main things I'm going to talk about in this session today are our liftoff and in orbit units. So if you're teaching in England, these will effectively be your compulsory Key Stage 2 units. The reason that they're called Lift Off and In Orbit is because we wanted to allow you full flexibility, whether you're teaching at any key stage in England or in different primary levels, classes, stages, etc., progression steps in other countries, that you don't feel it automatically says Key Stage 2, Year 3, and you're stuck with having to deliver it then. You are fully flexible to deliver Lift Off to your 9-year-olds, or to start with In Orbit if you have a really able group of learners, to mix and match between the two, or to use one as a stepped kind of thing. Fundamentally, Lift Off is aimed at 7 to 9-year-olds and In Orbit at 9 to 11-year-olds. So the last 4 years of primary school, that's what we're aiming for. And at the end of an In Orbit sequence of work, that children should be in a position that they are ready to move on to secondary learning with good degree of confidence in primary languages. So those are the two sort of schemes that I'm looking at today, are Lift Off and In Orbit units, and how they slot together and what you can expect from those. Now, we do also have our Sparks units. These are non-compulsory in England. Different curricula have different expectations with regard to starting a language, but fundamentally, these are aimed at under 7s. The idea behind the Sparks scheme is that these can be used in a nursery, they can be used in reception, they can be used in an early years setting with a childminder, they can be used at home, they can be used in a language club, or they can be used in lessons for younger primary learners at under 7. Frankly, if you really wanted to, they could be used to introduce a second language. They could be used to start off and get your learners ready for their compulsory language learning at an older age group. These are not a compulsory part of the scheme, and you don't need to follow them through. But as you can see, we've got really gorgeous characters. They're packed with songs and games, and they're fully focused on communication. And the sessions last about 15 minutes. So they're short and they're fun. And those are available as a kind of separate part that doesn't sort of feed into the scheme, as it were. They're kind of separate for you to access if you feel that that's something you'd like to access. And they've been really popular so far, so we really look forward to developing that as well. So this session today isn't going to look at the Spark scheme. We have got a CPD coming up a little bit later on about first steps in language learning and introducing it to under 7s, and we'll go into Sparks in a lot more detail then. But also our introductory documents, we've got some videos and various things. I'll send you some links to those afterwards. Those will obviously give you more information about Sparks as well. But this is really what I want you to know. It's fundamentally Lift Off and In Orbit that we're focusing on, because this is the main kind of age of language learning. So we've designed Lightning Languages to meet all main curriculum expectations. So all of the main expectations for England, Wales, Scotland, and the Republic of Ireland draft curriculum within every single unit. What this means is that you are free to build your own curriculum, because you don't have to panic. Oh my goodness, there's no listening in that one, or we haven't read anything in that one. I'm going to have to do this unit to make sure I tick off that point. We wanted to make sure that we ticked off every expectation in every unit so that you were free to build things up together. So if you wanted to maximize language learning opportunities, you could deliver a unit per half term. If you have a weekly slot throughout the year, you could deliver a unit per half term in an order that suits your timetable. And not only your timetable, but what else children are learning. So if you don't want to learn about pets, you don't need to learn about pets. But if your children are saying, oh, I really want to learn about school in France or Spain, then do the school unit. That's what we wanted, was that you had that flexibility so that you weren't forced to do certain units at certain points. You could choose what suited you at best, at the best point. Obviously, there'll be some units that lend themselves well to following after another, for example. So, for example, in our parts of the body unit, there will be some number usage, which may be helpful if you've done numbers, but fundamentally, they can all stand as a standalone unit, although we have said within our guidance, if we think they follow on well from another unit, or if we'd suggest, some other language that you may want to help you. However, we recognise that a unit per half term is not going to be easy, and is not always going to be realistic, because as we know from language trends report, from speaking to teachers myself, from responses on social media, most teachers do not have that slot every single week of the year for French and Spanish, and there is sometimes a panic to meet those curriculum expectations. I wanted a scheme that alleviated that panic, because if you only do 5 units a year, that's fine. We get these questions all the time about Planet. I can't finish the scheme. What do I do? how can I do this? We can't teach it all. There's just not time. And that's what I wanted, was that you can make this as short or as long as you want to fit in with your needs. So we recommend a minimum of 3 to 4 units a year would allow children to make substantial progress and develop confidence in fluency, in speaking, listening, reading and writing. So that's what we're kind of aiming for, is 3 to 4 units per year would be a great opportunity to kind of keep embedding and keep reflecting, because what we've tried to build with this is, in the way that a spiral curriculum functions, where you're constantly revisiting and recapping, we are revisiting language skills. I wanted a very skills-based curriculum rather than being very, very content heavy, where we've got endless lists of words and endless lists of things. It's about mastering and dominating language that's accessible and then being able to manipulate it and use it independently. So we don't want reams and reams and reams of content production or reams of lists, lists and lists of vocabulary, but keywords that can be used and then substituted, and teach those children the skills they need to swap out those words. So if they've learned the words for saying, I like chocolate, they can swap out chocolate because they know how to access the vocabulary, and they can swap it in to say, I like football, and those sorts of things. That's what we want to do, is build language. That's what this scheme is doing. So the more units you access simply, the more language you can practice building. However, 3 units a year will still allow you to cover national curriculum expectations. But obviously, it's common sense that spending an hour a week over a year, children will make more progress than spending 20 minutes every other week for 2 terms. That can't be avoided. However, but for those people who don't have much time, I wanted you to feel that you could still meet the curriculum expectations, still make progress within that time frame, and still obviously deliver everything that needs to be delivered to allow your children to make enough progress to feel confident to move on to secondary school. And that's really what we're aiming for. So as well as all of this, as I've said, we're covering the curriculum links. Within every single unit, you will find these curriculum links in the teacher's pack, and they tick off all of the curriculum expectations in Wales, Scotland, the Republic of Ireland, and England. It covers it for all of the resources within the unit. So the core PowerPoints will cover all of the key expectations. We then have a range of additional activities that you can use to enhance that. So if you feel you've not done enough reading, you can then focus on some reading activities by looking at what's there. Or if you feel you need some more grammar, or you need something else, or you need to do more listening, well, look at what's there and look at how you can build a little bit more. So that's our plan with this, really, is that it allows you the flexibility to think about what your children need and how you can put it together. Not only what they need, but also what they enjoy and what you enjoy as well. So progress, how can I be so certain that we'll build progress, within a unit? I can, because I have the most incredible team. If you had the chance to meet them, they've come to some of our TeachMeets, but also on the Lightning Languages landing page, you'll find in the Teacher Zone, you'll find a Meet the Team blog, which gives you a little bit about our expertise. So, in terms of years of expertise as language teaching, we have as much as you will find anywhere. We've got editors who've taught French and have taught it as a supply teacher and understand the difficulties of trying to jump in and teach somebody else's lessons. We've got teachers who've taught it as a language subject lead, teachers who've taught it as part of the curriculum as a classroom teacher themselves. We've got secondary teachers, primary teachers, nursery teachers. We've got a whole range of experience. We are all really passionate about languages, and we are really passionate about this scheme. I stand fully behind the pedagogy behind this unit. If you had the chance to meet my colleague Maz, for example, who has been really instrumental in working with me on putting together the curriculum, she's an experienced assistant head teacher, and not only an experienced language lead, but also a lead of other subjects. She's really experienced in curriculum planning, so I've really drawn on her expertise. Patricia, some of you may have met if you ever came to some of our live lessons. She's a really experienced nursery teacher, so she's got amazing ideas and imagination for putting ideas together into our Sparks unit and how to inject a general love of language learning at all stages, for example. We've got Lindsay, who's our secondary expert, and she's really well versed in where she needs her year sevens to be. So she's really helped us steer that scheme to know that we meet the end point about what's there, and Pete, you've met many times, is I really rely on Pete for a lot of cultural input, and he's really helped us develop the cultural capital aspect of the scheme. So to make sure that those are there. So, between all of us, we've put a huge amount of love and care into this, and making sure that your child can make progress, because I wanted something that I could stand up and say, I really believe in this. And I so do. I love it. I think it's amazing. The team have done a wonderful job. I'm so proud of what we've put together, not only of how it looks, but how it sounds, how it fits together, and how it genuinely works. So every unit has a standard progression pathway. So in other words, introducing nouns and determiners, and then building them into a phrase and sentence, and using them to ask and answer questions, which fundamentally is what we're trying to do across the whole period of time that children are learning a language. But we're putting that into every unit. And then every time you build a unit, you're building these skills more and more. Children need practical communication skills and to meet curriculum goals. So that's what we're trying to do in every unit, that we can deliver that by ensuring that progress is made in every single unit of work. I'm going to talk to you about how you then build your scheme to make sure you can do that. Just in terms of structuring, Liftoff and In Orbit both offer an introductory unit, introductions at Liftoff, introductions and skills for In Orbit, as well as 12 topic-based units. For Liftoff, those are slightly newer language learner kind of units, such as colours, pets, weather, school, hobbies, etc. For In Orbit, those are slightly a little bit of a step further on, for example. So we've got TV and film, time and routine, describing yourself, the world around us, for example, which just offer a little bit more challenge, not only in terms of the language of what's in there, but actually challenge in terms of the thought behind the unit as well. So as we release more and more units, and I'm going to talk to you about the time frame and what you will expect to see and when, we will provide a range of different ready-made pathway suggestions for you. So how you can actually progress and make this. So if you have a mixed stage scheme from year 3 to 4, or a mixed stage class from year 4 to 5, or from 5 to 6, how you can make this scheme work. If you want to teach an hour a week for 6 weeks across the year, how you make this scheme work. If you're teaching on a limited curriculum time, how do you do that? So we will be providing those ready-made pathways, but first our priority is getting the units on site for you, with a view that throughout this academic year you can start using them and implementing them where suits you, with September next year then being in a real position that this is a full scheme that can be introduced with your classes. So we also have our language progression map. When you get the PDF of these slides, you will have this link to this progression map, and that maps out exactly how we make progress beyond the unit, but across the whole scheme from the entire range of learning. We've mapped out all of the skill areas, as well as, so reading, writing, listening and speaking, as well as vocabulary, phonics, grammar, and cultural capital. And we've explained the ways in the skills-based opportunities that Lightning Languages will provide for your children to hit all of those expectations. So that map is a really great resource to enable you to really feel confident in the pedagogy behind the scheme. We also have a curriculum rationale pack, which gives you the intent, the implementation, and the impact. So how you can work towards that, how you can put together a subject leader file with Lightning Languages to actually contain the information that you need in order to be able to put together everything that you need and to build a curriculum that you have confidence in. There's also a tracker to help you, monitor how that's going and to really help you with the rationale and those kind of ideas as well. So those are editable so that you can take them away and actually put them in your roles, use your own school's headed paper, etc., to save those in your language folders. If at this point, before I carry on, please do throw in any questions in the chat, and I'm happy to help you with anything that you've got at any point. Please do. Otherwise, I'm just going to whiz straight, keep going. So as I said, we've got the units, and for each of Liftoff and In Orbit, there'll be 13 units available in total as our initial kind of plan. Each unit, so say you pick French colours, that's designed to take 3 to 6 lessons, depending on how much time you've got available. Every unit, most of them have got 3 units, a few units have got 4, most of them have got 3 lessons or 3 PowerPoints, a few units have got 4, just simply because the content required. an extra lesson. They all cover the 4 skill areas as well as the relevant grammar, phonics and vocabulary that you would need. And those PowerPoints will last, we're aiming for 30 minutes. We've delivered them to each other and they can be taught within 30 minutes. You can make them longer, obviously, if you take longer of the activities or choose to work things in different ways. But fundamentally, I wanted a PowerPoint that could be delivered in 30 minutes. The key thing with these PowerPoints as well is that if you're really pushed for time, which let's face it, teachers always are because everything is so busy and you have so much to do. I really felt strongly that I wanted lessons that didn't need an hour reading a lesson plan, a complicated lesson plan before you start. I didn't want something that you would click play and you'd be looking with your class and they'd be like, what am I doing? And you think, I don't know what I'm doing either. And then you've got to look at the lesson plan and find the slide and it says, oh, I have to explain this to you. I didn't want that in this scheme. This is as user-friendly as it can be. The explanations and everything are there for you. So if you are pushed for time, you can deliver that lesson without having looked at it in advance. We wanted you to be able, without any prior preparation, to be able to go into a classroom and deliver a lesson with confidence. And I really think we've managed to achieve that because everything that's in there will just help you seamlessly deliver that lesson. So you can just download it and launch the PowerPoint and teach it. Obviously, we have an extended sort of teacher pack filled with information about the lessons, you know, as the support that's there. But fundamentally, we wanted something that could be delivered without having a 6-page lesson plan going through all of the details that are there, so that you can deliver that lesson and feel confident in your delivery without having to use an excess amount of your time planning. So as I've said, they're 30-minute lessons, but you can teach longer lessons, or you can extend the unit to 6 weeks, or you can do both by using what we've called, because it's lightning, get it? Lightning bolts are bolt-on resources. And bolt-ons are really what make this scheme what it is, because they give you the full flexibility. So I'm going to show you what those look like and what you would expect to see, and then you can see how you will use them. So this is our French colours unit that has 3 PowerPoints, 3 lesson PowerPoints, each lasting half an hour each. You could, if you are pushed for time, deliver those 3 PowerPoints and no more. Perhaps next half term, you've got more time and you could deliver the PowerPoints and a bit more and some other things. And that's absolutely fine. We wanted to give you full flexibility that for schools with minimum time available, they could use these PowerPoints, feel confident that they can deliver a curriculum that meets the expectations within that time period, but also, if needs be, fill a full hour or fill a full 6 weeks. But you can, if you want, deliver this unit in 3 lessons as an absolute minimum. So, you know, this works really well for those terms, where those half terms when you know there's sports day, SATs in year 6, or when it's the Christmas production or their Easter bonnet parade and things are going on, and you know you're going to lose your time on the timetable for a language. So that's the point when you could factor in a unit and just deliver these lessons. And then you know that you've got some bolt-on activities if you want, for example, early finishers, for extension work that you could send home if people wanted to do additional learning. You know, we're seeing a lot more parents involved now in resources. When I look at the nature of people who download our resources, I'm seeing more and more parents downloading resources. So it could well be that you send home the bolt-on resources to a parent, you know, as these are additional options that you can also send there as well. But fundamentally, the 3 lessons are, or 4 in some units, are enough to deliver the scheme. You can then add on to it with a huge range of things that we've got. So we've got interactive games, videos, ebooks, we've got a sentence building pack, we've got our 3 pillars video, which we really love because they cover in more detail the vocabulary, grammar and phonics from the lessons. We've got a culture video, which can be brought in at a different point, looking at some culture related to it. So the colours unit, for example, talks about art in the French or Spanish speaking world. And then there's a quiz to help you with that. So that's your cultural capital for the unit. We've got sentence and word level interactive games to practice the language that's there. We've got an ebook with audio in our lift off units, which are lovely stories using the language from the units. In our in orbit lessons, because we felt children were a little bit older, we wanted to make a slight change. They've got a reading comprehension quiz instead, so there's still that reading element that's in the units. The lift-off units also have a song, which are in the PowerPoints, but also there's a separate song video. You can use those for a movement break at any time. And we've also got a wonderful activity booklet, which you can print off, and you can use these to support the PowerPoints, or you can dip in and dip out of them, or as I've said, you could send them home and parents could print them if they wanted extra support. So, you've got a full range of flexibility there, as well as our sentence building pack, which actually is a lesson pack in its own right. Again, it's completely optional, but it's based on the real growth in sentence building as a language learning trend lately, which is all about as you would imagine, slotting together words and sentences to make words and phrases to make full sentences and paragraphs. So you're actually using the language rather than just using words in isolation. So we're actually putting things together and manipulating language. And this sentence building pack has a PowerPoint that will recap the language from the unit and rework it and help your children build sentences. It comes with various accessories within that pack, such as a knowledge organizer, a sentence help sheet, building help sheet to actually build it, and then ways to practice so that your children will practice for writing and speaking actual sentence building. So, it's something that we're really proud of because it's a great addition to the scheme. As I've said, you may not use that every single unit because you may not have time. But for some of those units where you've got a half term, where you've got more time available to you, it's a wonderful resource and, will fill at least a lesson in its own right. So this is our activity booklet. They're absolutely great. They're filled with lovely activities. If you've seen any of the Twinkl Study Squad workbooks, they're modelled on a very similar format. So they've got, some nice brain breaks in the middle. They've got, bits of colouring and little activities, as well as sentence building, language building, as well as word level activities, practicing everything from the units. You can use them alongside the lessons. You can not use them at all, or you can just use them on an ad hoc basis. Or as I said, you could send them home, or you could have them for extra work, entirely how you choose to use them. As I've said, our sentence building pack is showing you in a bit more detail. It's showing you how to build sentences and how to substitute words and phrases so children learn how to put things together independently and actually make sentences. And it comes with a range of additional resources to support that. Our videos, which are great, they can be added on as sort of pre-teaching for the unit. They're also great to send home. They're great to pick up at another time. If you've got a slot for French that isn't so long, well, you could watch a little video and do some of the following activities on that. There's loads of ways that they can be used. There's also, as I've said, a song video as well in the lift-off units. And these were a really lovely addition to the scheme because they just take the PowerPoints that little bit further and just build on it a little bit more. As I said, our range of interactive activities. We've got the culture quiz to go with culture video, word and sentence level, activity games. There's a retrieval quiz to really build towards all of these things, and our ebooks. So a great selection to choose between. So what could a half term look like? How could you actually build together 6 weeks? Now, this is purely an idea of how it could look. So weeks 1 to 3, you could, very straightforward, deliver the PowerPoint and work and then complete any activities from the activity book that go alongside that lesson. Or you could just deliver the PowerPoint. That could fill you, you're looking at 45 minutes to an hour if you did all of those things, for example. This is a full half term, but obviously you can pick and choose what works for you. Week 4, you could then recap the content of the unit using the 3 pillars video. You could probably listen to the song for a little movement break as well, and then complete, the independent sentence tasks in the activity book as well. So building on that, and you could possibly then look at some additional resources to practice too. Week 5, you could do a sentence building lesson and the writing activity using the entire sentence building pack. That would fill an entire lesson. And week 6, you could read the ebook story. Children could read it to each other, listen to it. They can mimic the pronunciation. And then you could follow on with the unit assessment. Now there is a test, an assessment test inside the teacher pack you'll find at the end of the unit. So, you could use that there if you wanted to as well for benchmarking exercise. And then if you wanted to set homework or any independent study, you could use the interactive games. That is purely an idea of what it could look like. But you can see from that how flexible this scheme is. You're not forced to have to complete anything at any point. Weeks 1 to 3, you could just do the PowerPoints and play an interactive game. Week 4, you could perhaps watch the videos and read the ebook and play some more games, and that's it. You finished after 4 weeks. If you wanted to build on, you can do the sentence building. You can split that over 2 lessons because a lot of content, and back it up with the videos. You could not have any homework and use the interactive games in class and just have a lesson working through all of the interactive games. You could do the retrieval practice quiz followed by the unit assessment. All of that could take up a lesson. There are so many options of how you actually build the curriculum. The fundamental part is that you have the 3 PowerPoints. Anything else you choose to add on is only going to add additional opportunities to keep building language skills. If you've got any more questions at that point, please drop them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them at any point. So we've got our free introductory guide, which will give you more details to the scheme as well. You'll find that the links will be in the PDFs that you're sent to, and that will give you a little bit more detail about our characters. It will explain to you the rationale a bit more and how the sequencing in the PowerPoint is actually put together, the icons for language learning, and what you will expect to see covered in every single PowerPoint. We've also got a free French taste pack. These are fantastic because it gives you a real flavour of what's available. It'll give you a PowerPoint, both at Sparks and Liftoff level, a range of resources to kind of see what you will find to give you a taster, and obviously a Spanish taster as well. Both of those will give you an opportunity to really explore and have a look at the scheme. So what I wanted to look at, just to finish off with really, are just some of the frequently asked questions. These are the ones that I've had coming to me quite a lot, so I thought they would be good ones to address here. So the one that we're asked a lot is, because we are part of the Planet curriculum, how is Lightning Languages different from Planet French and Planet Spanish? Well, Planet French and Spanish offer a linear, progressive scheme of work from year 3 through to year 6, matched to the national curriculum scheme of work. Now, if you have the time to deliver a complete scheme of work, Planet will still be on the Twinkl website. It is still accessible to you. Everything is there. The resources are all there. However, Planet will no longer be being updated from now on because we are now focusing on Lightning Languages as our main scheme for production. So Planet will still exist, but it is going to be more of a legacy resource, and you can still access it and find everything on the website, but it won't be being updated. So some PowerPoints that are slightly older, for example, we will no longer be updating those or changing them. There won't be any sort of amendments to that scheme. However, what can work really well is if you are using Planet, and we know that many teachers struggle to fit everything in, you can support Planet with Lightning Languages, or you can, or vice versa. We've tried to put links. So on the information, when you click on a resource, I've tried to, where possible, link it to a relevant unit back and forth on Lightning Languages, so it could take you across if you've got Planet unit there. And it's a chance for you to kind of explore our new scheme alongside that, but just to be aware that it's not being updated anymore. But the main difference is Planet is a linear scheme that is based on an hour a week from year through to year 6, mapped against the English national curriculum, whereas Lightning Languages is a flexible and modular scheme with spiral curriculum principles that also meets the expectations not only in England, but in Wales, Scotland, and the Republic of Ireland. So do you have to teach the scheme in a specific order? Absolutely not. You are free to teach it in any order you see fit. So if you have a unit on animals when it's National Pet Month in April, great, do the pets unit then. If you're doing, number bonds to 10, well, great time to do numbers at the same time, for example. You can fit it in, so you're not forced to do anything at any time. You can build it around when suits you. So as I mentioned earlier, you can, if you want, teach a unit every half term. We recommend a minimum of 3 to 4 units will allow you enough time to revisit the language building opportunities to make substantial progress across time at primary school. So a half term of teaching, as I've said, give an example of how that could look like. There are various ways it will put that together, and we will, as we are developing more resources within the scheme, we'll be putting together planning resources for you that actually cover all of these things. How much time do I need to spend on planning? if you've been using our Planet scheme, I would very much hope that you would find learning languages would require you to spend much less time on planning. On one level, I wanted a resource that you can teach that PowerPoint without having to print anything or plan anything at all. You can, if you want, print the activity booklets so that children have those, but that's your printed resource for the whole unit. But you don't have to use those at all. The PowerPoints can be delivered as standalone resources without any prior preparation. And you really don't need any linguistic skills to deliver them because we've supported you through everything in there. So I'm hoping that this will provide you with less planning. Obviously at this stage, because we're still in the early stages of the scheme, you might find you need a little bit more time because you're trying to fit in things that work best for you. But as the scheme progresses, and certainly by the end of this academic year, you will see a full range of planning materials there to help support you. Does it cover the curriculum expectations? 100% yes, in England, Wales, Scotland, and the draft primary language curriculum for the Republic of Ireland. I've worked closely with members of the teams from those countries who work at Twinkl to make sure that we're really appealing to those customers as well. So really making sure that that's, and we've also taken it into consideration because even if you're teaching in one of those countries, actually, sometimes some of the other countries do things really well. So there are some elements of some schemes that, you know, our writers have said, do you know what, I really love this aspect of the Welsh curriculum. I think it would really enhance what we're doing for everybody. So we've kind of worked things in that. So having that awareness has given us a great overview and understanding of what our customers, our teachers need. So that's been really brilliant as well. So how are learners supported? Our teaching packs come with adaptive teaching resources. The unit overview has got detailed information on how to support and scaffold learning. We have some CPD videos on inclusion and on modelling and scaffolding to support you. So how that works throughout the scheme. And the adaptive teaching resources contain knowledge organizer, word cards, sentence starter cards, etc., that can be used to support your learners. As well as that, every item of vocabulary is presented visually, and we've got clear sound files, and we allow ample opportunities for recap and reinforcement throughout. And similarly with challenge, there are challenging activities with, you know, ways to support and challenge are within the teacher pack, you know, explaining how you can do that. And there are activities within our sentence building pack, which are fantastic for that. And, you know, you may well find that there are things that you can do with some of the other elements too, that we have so many additional resources that you can choose which would suit, you know, your learners at the best time. And we have so many different bolt-ons that you can support the learning needs of learners that need a little bit more support and those who need a bit more challenge as well. Because what we find in languages is that, well, personally, through my teaching experience, it's rare to find someone who is working at what would be the equivalent of greater depth across reading, writing, speaking, and listening. You might find someone who is brilliant at speaking, but they actually struggle a little bit with writing, or someone who's great at the productive skills, not so good at the receptive. So we do find with the 4 skills, it tends to even up as well. And it's, you know, really great because we've got different opportunities for different children at different points. And throughout the scheme, we've got a CPD video on stretch and challenge and how our scheme can support you with helping push those children who you would identify as working at greater depth. We've also got a TeachMeet coming up on that later in the year as well. And units aren't labelled by year group or key stage, as I've said, because I wanted an inclusive scheme, because I wanted to have a scheme that could be accessed by anybody, whether those are home educators, whether those are parents helping their children, whether those are teachers in Scotland or teachers in England, that they can open up the scheme and it isn't labelled with a label that doesn't work for them. You know, Lift Off and In Orbit are our age group units, but also they also work because if you're teaching a group of children in year 6 in England, but actually they're really struggling with their language learning, you may want to use Lift Off units with them. And if those were labelled year 3 or year 4, those children wouldn't be very happy at using those. So we wanted to make sure that there was that complete flexibility for you to build things in a way that suited you. So the difference between Lift Off and In Orbit, as I've said, we've got slightly more complex topics varying from things like colours, pets, food, etc., to then moving on to the next level that we've got time and routine, TV and film, meal times. So a little bit more detail, a little bit more thought, particularly with cultural capital as well in the In Orbit lessons. We've woven in a little bit more challenge in Orbit. So the sentence building packs are actually sentence building and challenge packs. We've also incorporated a slightly different style of activities in that to prepare children for what they would expect to see at secondary school. We've started to incorporate some of the things that you would see that they would be getting from year 7 onwards, such as reading aloud, such as dictation, and such as translation. We've tried to incorporate some of those elements throughout the scheme so they can start to get familiar on a very small level, you know, with short sentences, etc., how they can get familiar with those. We've also helped add in more teacher language into the in-orbit lessons, so that as teachers yourself, with help sheets for you to help you build up the target language that you're using in class as well. Liftoff contains a song and an ebook. The in-orbit lessons don't contain a song and they don't have an ebook, but they do have a reading comprehension challenge quiz, which, you know, really offers a great opportunity to develop those skills. The Sparks units are for our younger learners. They're not part of the main scheme, but they're there as supporting resources. We absolutely love them. They're great fun. They're a great way to introduce a language. They're great, for example, for European Day of Languages. If you want to do a quick language lesson with younger learners, they're fantastic for that. Or even if you're teaching French and you want to do a Spanish lesson with your learners for European Day of Languages this week coming up, why not teach one of the Spanish PowerPoints? They're great fun for that. They've got fun songs, cute characters, and they're packed with games, and they last about 15 minutes. The videos, as I've said, they can be used to back up the lessons, they can be used to pre-teach for independent study, or they can be used as a lesson in their own right. They're free for you to use to support you, you know, in any way that works best for you. And perhaps the most important thing, when the full scheme will be available. So I've shown you what a complete unit will contain. However, we are well aware, and this goes for all kind of the new schemes that we're currently developing at Twinkl, we're well aware that you as teachers, if I put up 3 or 4 full units, you can't deliver a full scheme of work from that. So what we've done is prioritize the PowerPoints, the activity book, the unit overview, the curriculum links, and some of the interactive resources, as well as the videos, to make sure that we have enough of a basis for you to build a curriculum, and all of the units are planned to be on site for Liftoff and in orbit, and also our full Sparks collection by this summer, ready for full teaching in September 2025. All of the other unit resources, such as sentence building, packs, any additional interactive games, or things such as ebooks or other bits of content, will be coming then after that, but you know, they will be progressing much quicker. So units will be updated as soon as they're available. We are sort of working on them constantly, and we're, you know, getting them out as soon as we can. So French introductions is about to be uploaded this week. Spanish introductions will be following on within the next couple of weeks, followed by TV and film for our very first in orbit unit, and then some more Sparks units as well. So we are constantly rolling these out, but with a view that the core elements, we've got enough elements for you to deliver a full scheme of work, will be available for you for every unit in time for next September. The CPD support that we offer, I think, is really fantastic, as well as these monthly TeachMeets. We've had a few this month, but I run one of these every single month on different elements of pedagogy or things that are important. And we also have a collection of CPD videos and resources as well that fully support the scheme. We also have blogs that we write to support it as well. And the last 2 questions: can you teach the scheme if you're not a specialist? 100% yes. So every single PowerPoint contains sound files. So you don't need to say anything out loud if you're worried about it. There are sound files there. As well as that, every time we introduce a grammar point, you can click and find something called a Go Guide. These are designed to be teacher facing, and if there's a new grammar point that comes up that you don't know, these Go Guides will give you that explanation and will tell you what that means so that you can learn as you're going along. You've also got the support from the videos, which allow you to kind of build on that. And all of our other resources contain sound files where appropriate, such as interactive games with sound files. The ebooks are full audio, they're fully narrated, etc. Everything, you are supported every step of the way with every aspect of this scheme. Our unit overview is really comprehensive and supports you with every aspect that you would need. But, you know, again, if there's an element that you feel you need more support with, please get in touch with us, and I'm always happy to run a CPD session on that, or to put together a CPD video. But it really works hard to make sure that there is, you know, a huge opportunity here. to help you, empower you, as well as teaching the children and helping them make progress at the same time. So just to remind you, obviously we've got our Spark scheme. As I said, I wasn't going to go through that in any depth today. We have got a TeachMeet on that coming up, but just to let you know about it, in case you've got any questions. Each unit, they're on simple things such as greetings, saying your name, saying your age, saying how you are, etc. They come with 3 PowerPoints. They're packed with songs and games. Within the unit, you'll find an activity booklet and an adult pack as well. And we've got interactive games to go with that and ebooks. So all of those will help you to have loads of fun delivering those. And, they're obviously designed for younger learners, but you are welcome to use those with older learners as well if you feel it's appropriate. I've got a link here to, I think Helen's already shared in the chat, a link to Eventbrite, to the TeachMeet, and if you follow Twinkl TeachMeet to find out more about it. But this is our plan for the year. So coming up, we've got sentence building in primary languages coming up in October, and then supporting greater depth in November, and our first TeachMeet in December is on under 7s, so first steps in languages, language teaching, so how we actually get children enthused in language learning from a young age, and that will be based on our Spark scheme. So that full collection of support is available for you to help you alongside this scheme. This is our CPD zone that we have for Lightning Languages. So our TeachMeet recordings you'll find there, as well as our CPD videos. We've got free how to use videos and free introductory videos, as well as CPD videos, and we're adding to those all the time on areas of pedagogy that we feel are really important to support you with this scheme delivery. Again, if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat. Please, let us know if there's anything that we can help with. But most importantly, as I've said, we are really, really pleased with this scheme. We're extremely proud of it. We think it's a fantastic opportunity to really help inspire a new generation of language learners. So if you have any questions at all, please get in touch with us, join our Twinkl Facebook group, follow us on X, or send a message to Twinkl Cares via the website, and we can get back to you. I'm always happy to jump on a call if you've got any questions about how you could embed this in your school. Be very happy to set up with a video call with you to help you work out how you can build your own curriculum and how you can put it together. Obviously, I fully appreciate the full scheme is not available yet, but we've got enough resources there for you to have a real flavour of what's coming, hopefully to start trying them out, downloading them, familiarizing with yourself, and we really hope those of you who are using Planet would feel confident to make the switch from next September fully, and those of you who are perhaps using other schemes may want to start embedding elements of this and potentially moving across to Lightning Languages as well. But thank you so much for joining us. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to stay on the call, so please feel free to ask me anything or drop them in the chat. But this will obviously be recorded and sent out to you, and you'll be able to find it on the website as well within Lightning Languages. So please do take a look at our taster packs, do have a look at our free introductory resources to help you familiarize yourself with the scheme and find out a little bit more about it. And hopefully it will help you, as our tagline says, teach languages confidently in a flash.